Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and recently I had the chance to visit Tokyo in Japan as well as Seoul, Korea on a vacation, and I've already put out a video summarizing my LEGO shopping adventure in Japan as well as an amazing Korean LEGO convention, Brick Korea 2022. But now it's time to summarize my LEGO shopping adventures in Seoul, Korea. Now, Seoul is actually a really interesting place to buy LEGO because while they do have standard LEGO stores, and those are pretty much the same as what you would see in the US, there was also a Legoland Korea, which very recently opened. In fact, the last time I was in Korea, which I think was 2018, 2019, I don't think it was even open yet. So this is a very new thing, so that was very cool to see. And they also have a very interesting toy market where you have a massive store that sells pretty much all kinds of LEGO. The best way I can describe it is like the Costco of LEGO, where they just had a massive big building and were selling all kinds of LEGO just stacked all the way up. And they also had a lot of unique specialty stores as well around a massive toy district market. It was kind of a little marketplace that was focused just on toys. Super unique, super special, and very cool to look at. So there's a lot of great stuff to see here. And at the end of the video, of course, do check out the haul of all the unique items that I was able to get during my time in Seoul, Korea. And so, without further ado, let's jump right in to the tour. So the last time I was in Korea was 4 years ago, so I was so excited to go and check out all the places that I missed the first time. I have a lot of fond memories from going around their toy market and even finding a lot of new LEGO sets early, and specifically this trip took place around December of 2022, so I was really hoping to be able to find some January 1st, 2023 LEGO sets, and spoiler alert, I did not until the very end, and they weren't even for sale, but I did find a whole lot of other kind of strange and interesting things. Now, for folks who watched the Japan tour, I found a lot of really interesting discontinued LEGO sets there. This one, I didn't find quite as many specialized or rare LEGO stuff, but there were just odd quirks to the way that LEGO was sold and some interesting types of stores that I figured would be useful to see. So flying over, I had a really nice and relaxing flight where I actually got a chance to sleep for most of the flight after editing some videos. Very unfortunately, right before we landed, I was served this very delicious steak and purple rice, which is a trademark of Korean cuisines, except I'm severely allergic to all nuts, peanuts, tree nuts, any kind of nuts. They will just absolutely knock me out. And they actually put some nuts on the top, which was a bit of an unfortunate mistake, which caused me to have to be wheeled out of the plane on a stretcher. Thankfully, after that whole debacle and after I got the medication I needed, I was immediately ready to start looking for LEGO. And in the airport itself, before we even got to our hotel, I started to find some rather interesting items. After setting aside our luggage, I just walked around the general grocery stores and random pharmacies that they had around the airport, and I happened to stumble upon some Disney collectible minifigure Series 2 figures, which was really surprising to see. I know that these minifigures didn't necessarily sell that well, which is, I guess, why they were still available, but these were available since the last time I was in Korea, probably 4 years ago, and it was kind of crazy seeing them still available to this day. Now, I already own all of the minifigure series, of course, but I did get an extra copy of the Elsa from Frozen, as well as a couple of duck-themed minifigures, because I just think that, one, it's probably pretty unlikely we'll ever get an Elsa Frozen minifigure again, and of course, duck bricks, you gotta get the ducks. From there, we took the bus over to our classic hotel. Every time I'm in Seoul, I stay at the Intercontinental Hotel in Coex. This is connected to a massive, sprawling underground shopping mall that you can literally take the elevator down from your rooms right down to the mall, which is probably one of my favorite hotels in the world. The view is spectacular, the rooms are nice, and you literally have one of the largest malls in Korea just sitting directly underneath your hotel. And that mall is complete with a few toy stores as well. Of course, when we got in, it was really late, so it was time to get to bed. But first thing in the morning, bright and early, we went out to the mall, and I immediately started taking a look at the random toy stores and other types of shopping areas they had around that mall, searching for LEGO. One of the most interesting things I found was that connected to the aquarium, the mall actually had a gift shop in the aquarium Flounder room, which you can see right here. There was actually a copy of the long-retired 75094 Imperial Shuttle Tidarium. This was a set that released around 2015, but unfortunately it was really expensive. There's a reason why it had not sold since 2015, because the price was actually more expensive than the current Bricklink price for a sealed copy, which is close to $200. So that's the thing about how things are in Korea. A lot of Lego is really expensive. Even Lego sold at standard retail will actually be a lot more expensive than it is pretty much everywhere else around the world. It's unfortunate, but that is how it is. So I decided to pass on it, especially because I already owned the set and there was literally no reason for me to buy a second copy of it, had a nice meal, and was very surprised by finding that within the mall itself, and I swear I did not plan this, there was a LEGO convention, Brick Korea 2022, which I have put out a dedicated video towards because that was one of the coolest conventions I've been to that's LEGO related, with a lot of really interesting mocks and a huge focus on Bionicle as well, which was really cool to see, and you can check out that video linked below in the description if you want to see more. After going around Korea for that day and mostly just doing some sightseeing stuff, the next day, bright and early, we wanted to head out to Legoland Korea. Now, as I mentioned in the intro of this video, Legoland Korea was something that was actually pretty new. The last time I was there, it was not open, and for whatever reason, Legoland Korea was open to a limited extent just for this wintertime season. And I was about to find out just how limited they meant. As you can probably tell, it was snowing, it was freezing cold based on my attire, and it was not typical theme park weather. In fact, Korea was really cold right around that time. It was even colder than what I'm used to when I was going to college back in Philly and even in Seattle where I'm from. It never got this cold, so it was absolutely frigid. And so the first thing that I wanted to do immediately after going inside was to, well, huddle in the warm gift shop. The big store, if you aren't aware, is the largest Lego store that you can find in any sort of Legoland, and it was really great being able to just wander around and see all sorts of unique things they had available. Immediately, what caught my eye were some pretty rare and discontinued Lego books, sticker books, activity books from years before the park itself opened. They had Nexo Knight stuff, they had Lego Batman movie items, they had Lego Ninjago movie items, they had Ninjago Skybound sticker books, a lot of stuff that I just had never seen in the US, such as a Day of the Departed towel. Like, that was crazy to see. Just a lot of generic merch that I just rarely ever see in the US itself. Now, what's really strange is that all of these merch predate the opening of the park. The park opened, I believe, around 2020 or 2021. Like, it is really new. So all this stuff was probably sitting in a warehouse somewhere, and somebody just realized that, hey, we've been just sitting on all of this random Lego merch from years ago that isn't selling. Can we just put them at Legoland? So I just thought it was kind of funny. I probably already own some of these in English, but just for the novelty of it, I got a couple of them for multiple copies of the exclusive minifigures. The Tartan Batman is just a really good one to have in general, and of course the Ninjago movie training suit, plus the Nexo Knights Aaron bot was a nice one to get. So we'll be taking a closer look at those at the end of the video, but it was interesting to see a lot of merch available, as well as an exclusive GWP just in Korea. Now, the cool thing about Lego stores in Korea and in Asia in particular is that they always have exclusive gift with purchases, especially themed around the holidays. The last time that I went, around 2018, they had a lot of fun little mini builds where you could put together small builds that you could use as Christmas ornaments that were pretty much just exclusive to Korea. They actually were mystery bags, so you could actually get one when you spend a certain amount of money on Lego, and you might get like a Santa Claus build or an elf build, and we'll be taking a look at some of those later in the video. But this was actually a specialized little stationery set and planner for 2023. It included a calendar for 2023, as well as a notebook and a number of small little ornamental builds, which again, we'll take a closer look at later on in this video. What was very unfortunate though is that the threshold for getting this was close to $200, and while I did spend that much on merch, t-shirts, giveaways for friends, Legoland Korea paraphernalia, it only counted if you spent around $200 US on Lego sets. And I literally had no Lego sets to buy. I buy pretty much everything that Lego puts out. I usually just get them on release date, and I definitely will not be buying Lego sets in Korea when they're twice as expensive as they are in the US. So quite literally, there was not a single Lego set in the big shop that I did not already own, or wanted at least. Like, obviously I don't own all the Duplo sets, but I don't particularly want any Duplo set either. So I literally just had nothing to buy for it, so I had to acquire it through other means, and we will be getting there later. Otherwise, it was still just a really nice time to just be able to wander around the store. One thing I found interesting is that they had custom Legoland snow globes, which looked almost off-brand. It was a really strange type of build to see, like a non-Lego related item that was interesting to see, but it was pretty cool to get this, and that was definitely something I wanted to pick up. Otherwise, the selection of LEGO sets available at the Big Shop was fairly standard. Again, the most interesting thing about the Big Shop and about a lot of these specialized Legoland stores is seeing the decorations that they have as part of the entire thing. You've got some Ninjago stuff and Castle and City, all fully constructed LEGO large-scale minifigures plus a gigantic circling tree. I recently was flown out to Legoland New York for a LEGO event, and the layout of both the park and especially this store was really similar to the actual Legoland in New York, which I guess makes sense because both were built at around the same time. The selection of these sets themselves wasn't anything really special. Pretty much, if you can find it on shop.lego.com, you can see it here, with the exception of some random interesting things like you just saw some stationary notebooks packaged with polybags, which was certainly interesting, you don't really see that in the US, and just a lot of general accessories and items. They had some rarer items like the LEGO Boost set from 2017, which was still being sold, as well as a couple of LEGO Movie 2 sets, which apparently just didn't sell well at all, but otherwise, again, as you can see here, nothing necessarily too interesting in terms of the selection. I just like seeing the random non-LEGO set items they have, like stuffed animals for Ollie the Dragon, the Legoland mascot, of course tons of backpacks. Cool to see some Monkey Kid sets, especially some of the ones that are already discontinued, as well as just random keychains and store displays, but really overall, there wasn't anything necessarily super special that made this store stand out. I ended up getting a lot of stuff from the store in terms of merchandise, and even some fun Ninjago outfit stuff, and just random gifts to give to my friends, but I really wouldn't recommend buying any particular LEGO sets here, especially because a lot of the LEGO sets were really overpriced, and I really didn't find any sort of store in Korea at all that had LEGO at fairly decent prices, which again, makes sense. There are regional differences in how expensive certain items are, and LEGO does differentiate how expensive they make their items, but aside from a 20% discount on a few select sets, which still put them as more expensive than what they would be in the US, and those are really for, I'm assuming, the sets that either weren't selling that well or ones that were just really large and people weren't buying them, this was just fun to walk around, but nothing much to get. So with the big store excursion finished, it was soon time to actually venture outwards to Legoland Park itself. As much as I enjoyed looking at all the nice decorations like the large-scale Kai's Fire Dragon and sort of what looked to be like one of the classic pirate ships like the Black Sea's Barracuda type build right there, it was time to actually go and experience the rides. Now the thing about Legoland Korea, and especially at the time of the year that we went, was that unfortunately because of the snow and the cold temperatures, 99% of the rides were not in operation. They probably had this on a sign or something before I bought tickets. It was all in Korean, so I didn't know, and so when we showed up, there were basically only like 2 rides running, and even beyond that, none of the rides were special to Legoland Korea itself. All of the rides were pretty much just things that you could find in the US. So after walking around the Legoland Hotel for a bit, which there was actually a Legoland Hotel there, which was pretty surprising, we finally ventured on outwards to the park itself, only to find that most of the attractions were in fact shut down. And that was a very unwelcome surprise. A surprise to be sure, and an unwelcome one. What was nice is that they did have this giant Christmas tree for Merry Brickmas. I like how large this was, and it was of course fully brick built out of Lego, which was amazing. And the first stop to the first functioning ride was in Bricktopia for the Factory Adventure Ride. This is a ride that features in Legoland New York, but they basically made a copy of it in Korea as well, and my favorite thing was seeing some original Lego advertisements being showcased on the sides of the walls, as well as a history of Lego, a full-on timeline of some of the most important product lines, the history of the brand. Unfortunately, no mention of Bionicle. It is what it is, you know, sometimes the things that save the company are not mentioned, but moving into the main queue for the Factory Adventure Ride itself, you can probably imagine that I was basically the only person at the park at this time. I think I literally only saw one other guest, but moving on from that, it was really cool to be able to walk through this queue and see a lot of different aspects to the history of Lego as we were walking through the queue itself. Seeing copies of vintage LEGO advertisements on the walls of the queue really took you back to a different time, and I really appreciated seeing a timeline of the history of the LEGO group. Again, some notable themes notwithstanding, but for the most part it covered pretty much all the important aspects of LEGO's history, and with a special emphasis on the Legoland parks, which I guess makes sense because it showcased when each of the Legoland parks around the world opened up. Now, Moving inwards deeper in the queue, there was a really nice brick-built ride vehicle. I really liked how they actually had that fully brick-built, as well as a few random sets that were scattered around in this kind of workshop or work-in-progress area. The neat thing about the queue is that the entire setup was meant to mimic a LEGO Master Model Builder's workshop, where you could see different models in bins and under construction, and the entire thing is that this was supposed to be the interior part of the LEGO factory. So you actually have models that are specifically built to look partially disassembled or partially under construction, with random pieces in bins, all sorted by color and whatnot. Interesting parts usages and parts choices there for certain items in the bins, as well as just models that are just simply under construction. Now, I'm not really sure if these are just always going to be partially constructed or these are actually halfway constructed models they kind of leave in the queue. Overall though, it was just an interesting thing to see because these are actually models that you can see at Legoland parks around the world. The Legoland Dubai park had this camel that was fully built, as well as a lot of the other LEGO Adventures areas around the world, and it was cool seeing a little bit of a peek into what it's like to design LEGO models. Of course, some of my favorite pieces here were just seeing random discontinued LEGO sets like the 2018 Technic flagship crawler crane there, as well as a lot of vintage style LEGO models. You even have the Christmas Village holiday train from 2016, some Ninjago Tournament of Elements stuff from Ninjago Legacy, even Monkey Kid had an appearance. So overall, it was just a really fun queue experience that's really unlike any other style of LEGO queue for any other ride. Of course, gotta shout out that duck on the bottom shelf there, and even some hidden side sets. So I don't really know where they're getting these, like the Brick Bounty from 2015, but it was interesting just seeing different partially constructed pieces, which gives you a little bit of a look into what it's like to be a LEGO Master Model Builder. But soon enough, it was time to board the ride itself. So again, we were pretty much the only visitors. Like, we lined up and there was no line. You can see the queue was completely empty, and here's a little look at what it was like on the ride itself. Now, the ride utilized a trackless moving system, similar to rides like Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland. This was basically a fully movable omnidirectional vehicle that spun around and toured you around the factory itself, where you could see all sorts of different types of constructions and builds, which was a really unique concept for a Legoland ride, and something I certainly found to be very interesting. What was cool is that the vehicle itself was mounted on servo motors underneath you, so you could also feel the movement of the vehicle almost as if it was rolling along and rattling as it moved along the ride itself. And the entire concept of the ride was that you were going to be shrunk down to the size of a minifigure and go through the packaging process of a minifigure itself, which was a really fun time. Of course though, after taking a lot of photos in the line queue and really appreciating it for what it was then time to move on to the other rides. Except to be completely honest, there weren't really that many other rides. This, I will point out, was pretty cool, a custom sig fig that the employee had, and of course you go through the Pick-a-Brick shop. But after exiting the store for this particular factory tour ride, we quickly realized that pretty much every other aspect of the park was just shut down due to snow. So obviously a lot of the outdoor rides were closed. The castle area was in fact completely blocked off, so you could not even take a look at the gift shops or anything. The entire gate was blocked off, which was pretty sad because the roller coaster did look really fun. I wasn't really expecting it to be running because, again, it was a very, very cold and snowy day, but it was a little bit disappointing not to see any of these stores be open either. Now, the real unfortunate surprise was going over to the Ninjago world, though. For those who know, the Ninjago ride, which debuted first in Legoland California in 2016 and is pretty much in every other Legoland around the world now, is fully indoors, and the entire point of the Ninjago ride is that you can kind of use your hands to blast elemental powers forwards. It's really nice. It is voice acted by the actors from the TV show itself, but unfortunately, you could enter the land, which was nice. You could actually go in, but all the stores were closed, so the gift shop was closed. You couldn't really look inside any of these stores themselves, and the Ninjago ride itself was shut down due to the holiday season. So what I'm guessing is that the way Legoland Korea works is that during this holiday season, they probably just open on a very limited schedule. Pretty much the only ride available was the factory tour ride, which maybe some would argue was the best ride in the park because it was the most technologically advanced. But there really wasn't much to do there because literally every activity and ride was just shut down. Still, it was nice taking pictures of Legoland in the snow, which is not really something you're ever going to see, especially in the US when it's tropical all the year round, 24/7 in most of the US parks like in California and Florida. But then it was time to just continue my walk around the park, and here you can just see how empty it was. I almost felt kind of bad. It was almost spooky in a sense. Going around the park, it was below freezing, really cold. It was the early hours of the morning because I got there right when it opened to maximize my day. And you can see I was literally the only visitor. Like, I was the only guest at the park. Like, that I looked around, completely empty, no rides running, no nothing. And it's kind of weird. I mean, it was an interesting experience for sure. I recently was at Legoland New York for a press event, which also was a similar vibe, but at least then there were at least a couple other Lego YouTubers and influencers with me. Here, literally, it was a ghost town. I don't think I saw many employees. All the employees were definitely indoors where they should have been, and all the rides were shut down. It was kind of like looking at an abandoned park. Here's Pirate Shores, which is the Pirates Land. Obviously, as you can imagine, not many rides open at all, and when I say not many, I mean none of them were open, but it was still, again, nice to see all these specialized builds for the different pirates and their cannons and artilleries and whatnot, all standing guard and just waiting for more guests to come, hopefully during sunnier days. Now, what was pretty interesting was seeing what the rides looked like when completely drained and shut down. So, obviously, a lot of the Pirates rides are focused on boats and water. Now, the main Pirates ride is Splash Battle, which is a pretty old Legoland ride. It opened up in Legoland, California first, I believe around 2009. I have fond memories of running it first when it opened there, but here you can see this is what it looks like without any water, and this is completely snowed in. The pirate boats had tarps over them. It felt like the park should have been closed, but for whatever reason, it remained open. It was a crazy experience, like nobody was here. You're never gonna get this kind of Legoland experience in the US where it's always gonna be packed with visitors. And I've had a similar experience in a lot of the Legolands over the course of my travels over the world. Even in like Legoland Malaysia, I went to Legoland Japan, Legoland Dubai. Even during peak summer or good weather, they all kind of felt like this. They all kind of felt like ghost towns, and I do have to wonder how popular Legolands really are in areas of the world that maybe don't have as much interest in Lego than, say, the US or, say, Europe, because this was a really interesting type of setup to see, and I thought it was a cool experience, but you can see it's just a ghost town. Now, thankfully in Pirates Land there were some experiences that were open, such as a treasure hunt here, so when I walked in you could actually see some sorts of things going on there, and there was a fun little interactive play area for a treasure hunt, but otherwise it was a pretty empty area. I mean, you can see like maybe 1 or 2 people walking down the road here, but really for the most part, we were the only people there. I'm going to let this footage play for a little bit as we continue our journey through Legoland, and we will just move on to Lego City. So from Pirates, you can see Lego City right here. The way that Lego City is set up, it was a full-on main street, so you can see that as we walk through the snowy park area, we make our way over to the city station, and what was open was, I believe, the 4D theater. That one was open, but no other rides, so everything else was fully shut down, nothing in operation, no boats, no cars, no fire brigade, no nothing. Just a ton of empty statues and just a snowy landscape to enjoy Lego City. One thing I liked was that a lot of the buildings were callbacks to actual Lego sets. You just saw the yellow train station as the camera's pivoting over here. That is somewhat of a reference to one of the Lego train station sets that we got back in the day for Lego Town and Lego City later on. We have a pizzeria area, and some of these are actually references to modular buildings. Right up ahead, straight ahead, is the Palace Cinema, which is a reference to the 2013 modular building. And what was unfortunate was that because it was the winter, I guess, not even the indoor stores were open. So going on over to the studio store right there, that was actually fully closed. Like, you could not go in. That's what it looked like. But yeah, this location is closed is what the sign said. So not much you could see or do there, other than just walk around and enjoy a completely deserted and empty Legoland, where I'm sure that a lot of fun footage could have been shot, but at this point, I was so cold, I was literally freezing. I mean, there was no reason for anybody to have come out to Legoland on this day. I was beginning to regret all my life choices. If no rides were open, no stores were open, it's not much I can do here. Like, I at this point, I was starting to wonder why I was even there, because when you get down to it, all Legolands kind of look the same. Like, this is identical to Legoland New York in layout for the most part. It's not really on a hill, so it's a little different, but I mean, for the most part, it's basically the same exact layout. So I think we spent around an hour here tops, or maybe an hour and a half, just walking around taking photos before I really realized that there was, frankly, no point in me being there. The most interesting thing to me was seeing what the water rides looked like when shut down. I did not know those things detached from the actual machinery there, but yes, they do detach, and they were just sitting on the ground there. Of course, once wandering aimlessly around the themed lands of Legoland was over, it was time for the main attraction of Legoland itself, which in my opinion is Miniland. Miniland is great because no matter if everything else about a certain Legoland park is identical in another part of the world, what is special is Miniland, because Miniland is different for every single Legoland depending on the region of the world you're in. And in this case, they had a specific themed area to all of the different parts of Korea, a little bit of Japan, some China thrown in, all sorts of really great types of buildings that you're just never going to see in any other type of Legoland park. And it was such a blast being able to go through and roam through the Legoland Korea Miniland, especially because this isn't something that I feel has been super well documented across a lot of other LEGO videos. I just haven't seen a lot of pictures of the Korea Legoland Miniland, which is why I had such a good time exploring it, especially in the snow. It had such a unique vibe in the snow and having the winter type aspect to it. The snow was collecting on the roofs and you could see the minifigures and the mini people walking through the snowy landscape itself. And it was always fun hunting for the Q parts, or the non-production parts, which the LEGO designers do sneak in a lot in Miniland, especially because LEGO Master Model builders at Legoland have access to non-production parts, like tan-colored mixel joints, as well as all sorts of different unique things, so it's always cool just going around and seeing what sorts of different pieces can you see that aren't really officially LEGO pieces, but are still officially made by LEGO themselves. Overall, this was a really fun time, and despite everything at Legoland Korea being closed, I enjoyed my time there. It was quite an experience being able to travel around and take in all the sights, enjoy seeing all sorts of landmarks that I either had seen or was about to see on my future travels around Asia, and overall, definitely the highlight of my entire trip was the Miniland, of course, because that was just the most interesting thing to see in Legoland Korea when everything else was basically identical to everything else that you can see in any other Legoland around the world. Lastly, once the Miniland journeys were over, it was time for a quick pit stop to check out the Legoland Hotel, which was interesting how they did have a hotel set up despite the seeming lack of visitors. And then it was time to say goodbye to Legoland Korea. I was able to purchase a lot of merch, a lot of specialized items, not a ton of LEGO sets, and we'll take a look at some of that stuff later on in this video. Next up, we then took a train over back to the main Seoul city area, which was pretty much where everything else is. Legoland Korea is nowhere near Seoul. It actually was maybe, I would say, around an hour and a half to 2 hours train, if I recall correctly, actually getting over there. And once we were back, it was then time to check out some of the interesting LEGO shopping experiences that they had available. First off, it was time to go to a standard LEGO store. Now, if you've been to a LEGO retail store, a lot of these are very similar, but there was an interesting twist with the Korean LEGO stores, which I kind of wish they did in the US stores. This was the store located in the Lotte World Tower, which is one of the largest shopping towers. It's also connected to their version of Disneyland. It's kind of a huge amusement park, Lotte World. But here you can see their VIP program was really interesting, and it was completely unlike what we get in the US, where if you have a LEGO store membership, you actually receive this really nice clear desk piece, which is a little bit of an art piece for you to play around with. I thought that was so cool. I really wish that the VIP program in the US actually gave that as well. It was a very unique thing. You could see one of the other rewards was like some sort of a chair or something, so it was pretty cool. The threshold to reach that was not high at all. Like, it was, you have to spend a certain amount of money in a year, and I was like, I spend that on LEGO every month. I mean, I would get like 12 of these every year if I wanted to. So really cool seeing specialized freebies. Unfortunately, I was not about to blow $1,000 on sets I already owned just to get that. If you are selling one though, if anybody is selling one of these, I absolutely would be interested in getting one, because they had them on hand. They would not sell them to me. They said, no, you have to like be a member at the LEGO store and purchase a certain amount of LEGO, which was definitely not what I was in the market for. Despite how cool it was, I was not going to buy $1,000 worth of sets I already owned. But if you are selling it, let me know in the comments below, and let's see if we can work something out. Also here, going into the grocery stores, it was really interesting to see LEGO sections in the grocery stores themselves. I'm not really used to seeing that many LEGO aisles in grocery stores outside of Europe and Asia, so it's always a really nice surprise when I'm touring around a new store and I'm like, oh yeah, there's a random LEGO section here. That's cool. But by then, it had been a long day of going around Legoland Korea and shopping around the malls, and it was time for a hearty meal. I went to this amazing restaurant called Born and Bred. It is a Michelin star restaurant, and they really must have a different idea of casual dining than we do in the US. But this was probably one of the greatest Korean barbecue places I've ever eaten at. I know this is a Lego channel and not a trip vlog channel, so I'm gonna try to not talk too much about like general trip and touristy stuff that I did, because I obviously did a lot of that stuff as well, and move on quickly to Lego. The next day, we toured around some of the markets, got a chance to have some traditional type of Korean food and dumplings, which was really good, walked around the shopping areas, ate at traditional tea houses, and of course, throughout that time, I got a chance to take a picture of my Lego minifigures walking through these snowy settings, but soon enough, it was time as a few days had passed and we did a lot of touristy things, non-Lego related things on the trip, because unfortunately, not 100% of my life is always Lego all the time, although imagine what a life that would be. But a few days later, I got a chance to go back to the Dongdaemun district. So if you aren't aware, the Dongdaemun district is an open street market where every single store focuses on toys. That's all the stores do. Every single store is a toy store, and this goes on for miles. It is simply the largest toy shopping street that you can find in Korea. It is pretty crazy how they just have a dedicated market specifically for toys. And here's the thing. 99.9% of the toys available were Lego knockoffs. You can see from the photos that they look like Lego sets from firsthand, and some of them even copy the box art of long discontinued Lego sets, but as soon as you draw closer, they are off-brand sets, and that's because obviously Lego is really expensive in Korea, which is why knockoffs do so well. However, of course, there was a rare gem here and there, which were stores actually selling Lego. Here's a first one that I went into. Apologies, I have no idea what the name of the store is. I looked up, I don't speak Korean, so I kind of looked at the store and I was like, okay, looks like there's Lego being sold in here. So after going inside, there were a lot of different items to see, but unfortunately, nothing super special or rare. To be honest, the selection was pretty much just the standard Lego store selection. Maybe a couple years back, I think the oldest and rarest items that I saw were from Toy Story 4 and the Lego Movie 2, both sets and sub-themes that didn't necessarily sell super well, as well as a few Monkey Kid stuff that I think was strange for me to see in stores, because here in the US we don't actually get Monkey Kid in stores. They're not sold at regular stores, they're not sold at Lego stores. The only way to get Monkey Kid is online. So it was cool seeing Monkey Kid actually on shelves, but otherwise nothing super interesting going on. Maybe another older set I can see. There was a Unikitty set there from 2018, but otherwise nothing super special. Of course, as I walked along the markets, it was very interesting seeing the different kinds of knockoffs that they had available. Some of the knockoffs actually looked like they had pretty interesting builds, although some of them were pretty suspicious. But there is one main store to take a look at in the Dongdaemun market, and that is this store right here, which is basically a hub for Lego shopping. The entire store is dedicated pretty much just to Lego, which is a really special thing, and you could see it from a mile away. The name of the store was literally called, I believe it was like, the market is Dongdaemun Toys and Stationery Street Market. The store itself is specifically a Lego related store. I believe the name is Sungjin Wongu, and my apologies if I completely butchered the pronunciation of that. You cannot miss it. There are dozens of Lego flags adorning the street all the way leading up to it. If you want to get Lego, you know where to go. The entire walls of the store are decorated with Lego branding, and let's take a look inside that right now. So this is the store I mentioned in the intro of the video as something that felt like the Costco of Lego, where pretty much every Lego set from the past, I would say 2 to 2.5, maybe even 3 years, was available for sale. And here's the kicker. This was probably the best place to actually buy Lego in Korea that I could find. Pretty much all the sets were not quite US retail value, but they were pretty close. Like, they were not super far off from what you expect to find in the US in terms of prices. Like $20 sets were maybe $25, $40 sets were $45 to $50. They were still overpriced, but not ridiculously so, as you would see. It wasn't ludicrous in the way that they were priced, and that was something that I really did appreciate. The other really cool thing about this was that the store was set up with a ton of LEGO displays. So pretty much everywhere you looked, there was giant statues, like a giant Toy Story Woody statue. There were all sorts of different displays from different years of LEGO, and some of the most interesting store displays I found that were referencing and even advertising themes that had been long discontinued, at least since like the 2014, 2015, and 2016 era. Although unfortunately, I did ask, I was not able to purchase these store displays, despite the fact that they really were not advertising really anything. It was, again, cool to see Monkey Kid on shelves, always great to see that. Of course, a great big Ninjago area. This was when Crystallize was really in the peak of airing, and I really liked this display. I kind of want this display myself, which was advertising the Ninja Ultra Combo Mech fully split up, and then a picture of what the mech looked like fully combined. Moving onwards, you can see all sorts of different organized displays here. I really liked the attention to the organization and detail of how everything was laid out. You've got Minecraft, you've got Harry Potter, you have Marvel, everything was fully organized, and this felt like one of the most popular stores in the area, obviously for a very good reason, because they had literally everything. Direct-to-consumer sets, somewhat discontinued sets, interesting playout areas, like this was a LEGO Mario and Princess Peach playable area where you could actually test out the electronics yourself, which I thought was really interesting. Even the largest sets were shrink wrapped, which again is not something that you normally would see in the US, but it was cool to see. And this is what I really wanted. I wanted to be able to purchase this LEGO City Jungle Expedition display build because I actually don't own all those sets. I've been trying to own them all, and that's a really interesting display to get. Long discontinued, but unfortunately they were not willing to sell. Moving onwards to here, we have some of the older related stuff. There was still some, again, LEGO Movie 2 stuff. There seemed to be a lot of those in pretty much every toy store. Of course, you have a display dedicated to LEGO City 2019, which was a fairly, I guess, not super old, but still discontinued sub-theme of LEGO City for the LEGO City space. And then there was an entire wall dedicated to all of the icon sets, all carefully shrink-wrapped as well, which was really interesting to see. I think the rarest item there was the Boost Star Wars set. That one is actually pretty expensive on Bricklink, and this one was cheaper than what it was on Bricklink Sealed. However, I do already own the set, so I really had no way of needing it. The strangest item, however, that I found here was a brick separator. I mean, can you see it? Can you see what the strangest item is just by looking at this? Well, I just said it. It was a brick separator from, like, the 2000s. A green brick separator in a poly bag. They must have pulled that out of some warehouse somewhere. I have literally no idea why this was still being sold alongside all of the other sets. It was kind of crazy actually seeing this, but yeah, weird to see that. Otherwise, lots of cool and interesting more LEGO displays. We had some advertisements for Lunar New Year for 2022, which was interesting. Of course, had to get a lot of photos in here because this was a fun experience, and as I was walking out, you could see them actually carrying boxes and boxes of more LEGO as they went along. But of course, soon enough, it was time to say goodbye to this particular store. Unfortunately, I did not end up buying anything because I had the problem of already owning everything in the store, which I guess isn't really a problem at all. Still, it was a great time being able to experience this store once again, but that was not the last store on my list, because there was one more store I kind of randomly encountered, and this one was a weird one. So you can immediately see by the selection of items in this store that they were stocking some pretty interesting and random LEGO items. Not necessarily anything I needed, but a couple of discontinued sets, some old gift with purchases, and some new gift with purchases, and this was actually where I got the Korea exclusive gift with purchase wall calendar for 2023 because they were just selling it individually. Those that you just saw were LEGO Movie 1 McDonald's Happy Meal toys. They had a series of random collectible minifigures. I didn't know if these were displays or were for sale, just kind of randomly in the store itself. I don't even know how to describe the store. You can see it was marked by these multicolored LEGO bricks out of the front, so if you want to find it, that's what it is. But I wouldn't call them a used LEGO store, but I also wouldn't call them a regular LEGO store. It almost felt like they were just reselling random items that they themselves had bought or had encountered on their travels, which was pretty cool. But soon enough, it was time to say goodbye to the Dongdaemun Market for toys and stationery and go back to the Lotte World Tower, where I got a chance to visit Toys R Us, which is still alive and well in Asia. Now, Toys R Us's LEGO selection was pretty awesome, and I really loved the amount of unique displays they had there because it felt unlike any other LEGO shop that you would see in the US. First of all, they had this great collectible minifigure dragon sculpture, which was really fun. They had some advertisements for 2023 sets, and of course, as you go around, this was probably my favorite part of the store, where you could actually see LEGO 18+ adult sets showcased in display cases, which you never really see. Usually you see display cases for some of the kid-oriented sets, but nothing like the Daily Bugle or anything like that. That was super cool to see those actually in fully official displays, and the way that they just had everything laid out was very interesting. They had center islands with sets being displayed in island areas. They of course had a lot of Christmas branding. Every single one of the sets was divided up by theme. There was a little bit of a display dedicated to even some of the smaller sets, like Cole's Golden Dragon Cruiser from the Ninjago Crystallized Wave had a little display case of its own, which you saw briefly there, and it was just a really interesting experience being able to enjoy some of these different sets scattered around. Like, this one was combining a Ninjago core set and a crystallized set, but in the same display case. You can see Minecraft, Duplo, Disney, and LEGO Friends, so that was really weird how all of that was in one case. Again, I know there's a lot of fans who actually collect these official display cases, and I don't think a lot of these are even listed on Bricklink. Simply, a lot of people don't even know that these exist, so there were a lot of interesting things that they had stocked here that were just cool to check out in terms of the store displays. And my favorite part was actually being able to see a massive LEGO Marvel themed MOC. It was kind of a mashup between the Endgame final battle as well as the Avengers 1 final battle. It was just really cool to see this being integrated with a lot of these sets. So they were showcasing the Quinjet and of course the Guardian ship and the Hulkbusters, but it was a full-on MOC, I assume created by a local LUG or LEGO users group, which was showcasing all these different minifigures in action poses. My favorite part about it was that this was, again, fully glass, fully exposed, but you had a lot of cutaway spaces, and there were a lot of lights. Obviously, Avengers Tower fully lit up. You got the good old sky beam up the top there. Even the Quinjet itself was lit up in terms of the inside of the cockpit, and it was really cool being able to just take a look inside that display and appreciate all the details. Moving on, there was also a really interesting section which had a ton of LEGO minifigures mounted on the wall here, aside a screen. These are all collectible minifigures from the 2016 to 2017 era, so I assume that's when they put up this display and they just didn't really change it since then, but it was kind of interesting, feeling a blast from the past, seeing all of these rare minifigures, or at least discontinued minifigures that were still on display on the walls themselves. You can get a closer look at some of the ones included there, from Disney Series 2 to the older series of collectible minifigures, and as you walked around the store, it was a really open layout, and just kind of made me miss Toys R Us, because maybe if Toys R Us was still fully active in the US, I know that they're around in Macy's and whatnot, but if we still had Toys R Us stores here in the US, I feel like they would look something like this, and I really loved the unique and innovative displays they had going on. Every single panel, every single wall, every single exposed piece was themed around LEGO, and that was just so cool. Brought me back to older times and good memories of going to Toys R Us back in the US. But after that, it was then time to say goodbye to Toys R Us and move on to some of the final destinations on the trip, where, as you can see, there weren't necessarily a lot of specifically very interesting things to actually purchase, but there were just a lot of interesting shopping experiences. I initially wasn't even going to make a video on my LEGO tour in Korea because I didn't really buy that much, but I figured, you know what, I went to enough LEGO experiences that hopefully some people might be interested in the types of things that you can see there, so I said, you know what, why not, I'll go ahead and make a video on this. So I hope that this has been helpful to you in terms of just seeing the different kind of shopping experience that you can get overseas. Now, moving on from Toys R Us, there were only a couple more locations that I specifically wanted to go to just to really be able to complete my shopping experience. After walking around Lotte World for a little bit and going through the rides and whatnot, which was always a fun time, I got a chance to visit the LEGO store on the day before January 1st, where I was dedicated to be able to purchase at least one 2023 LEGO set early. It was only a day early, but unfortunately they were still fully boxed up. You could see a very tantalizing pile of all the new sets that were fully boxed up, but unfortunately were not available for purchase. And what was very strange is that in this official LEGO store, I think a good way to end this video is just a weird, strange thing that I found: Brickheads from 2017, still for sale at this official LEGO store. But finally, we have summed up our entire Seoul, Korea trip. This was a really fun shopping experience, and while I didn't buy that many LEGO sets, there were a lot of interesting LEGO merchandise, paraphernalia, and specialized exclusive gift with purchase sets that I was able to get. So let's take a look at that in the haul right now. In fact, most of this stuff is like literature and random books and stuff like that. But they're interesting and they are LEGO, so I figured why not, I did want to get them. One cool thing is that in Korea and Japan around Christmas time, they have special gift with purchase sets where if you spend a certain amount on LEGO, you get this. And we don't have this in the US, I haven't even seen this in Europe. In fact, I've only seen this in Korea and Japan. The last time that I was in Korea and Japan was 2018, actually the Christmas of... No, hold on. Yeah, Christmas 2018. They also had this, as well as in the summer of 2017, and they also had giveaways like these. Don't know why we don't get these in the US, but they're pretty cool. They're just nice little builds. Sometimes they have special minifigures, which they had in 2018, but they didn't have this time, and sometimes there are different alternate kind of options for what you can build with them. But this one was a set of 4 ornaments. You can see them right here. This is the train. This is a very, very simple tree, like just the most simple Christmas tree ever. You have a little nutcracker. I like what they were able to do for the pieces, like they're simple builds, but I like them. And you have the snowman right here. I like how he's also using a brand new 2022 piece, like this is a special piece that allows you to mount stuff on the side. I'm trying to get my camera to focus here. There we go. So you can see that mounted right there for the snow cone, which is very nice. And you also include the Minions hair pieces in brown. So the snowman is probably the most interesting one because it has all the newer pieces. Now, the cool thing is that Bionicle fans know what I'm talking about. You can combine all of the ornaments into a kaida, which is basically just like a big combo model. That's not the official name of it, but it's what it was called in Bionicle when you combine different models together. And you get this, well, it's an elf, is what they say it is. I don't know, it's kind of like scary to me. I wouldn't want to encounter this in like an alleyway. Like that's kind of like a spooky elf. So I chose not to build the elf, and I chose to build the individual models. But I appreciate that they were able to make a combo model out of all these pieces. And yeah, you can see the instructions here. It is packaged very similarly to other like random VIP gifts. So you can see, here's how the instructions work. You got the tree, the nutcracker, and the snowman. You have your parts list right here. And you have the elf, where you can combine all the pieces into a large elf. Now, I did get 2 of these, so technically I could make the elf if I wanted to, but I'll probably just either sell this on Bricklink for super cheap because it's a random item. I mean, check out my Bricklink store in the description if you want to get this. I mean, this is how it was packaged. This is still quote-unquote sealed. There's a part number there. I don't even know if this is listed on Bricklink. We'll find out. But yeah, just a weird little promotional gift. That's a very strange exclusive thing to Korea and Japan. Otherwise, though, we have a few more LEGO minifigures. We'll look at the minifigures last, but I got basically a lot of just documents and literature pertaining to LEGO-specific stuff in Korea and Japan. Moving on from that, we have a Legoland Korea park map for Merry Brickmas. So this was a Christmas-themed one. As you saw in the video, it was a literal ghost town. It was actually kind of spooky how it's basically the only one there, but if all the rides were open, you can see all the rides right here. So you've got like pretty much all the classic Legoland rides. But yeah, as you can see, for Christmas, the ones that are just blacked out are just closed. So the entire Castle Land was closed for Christmas. The entire Ninjago Land was closed for Christmas, which I don't know why. I mean, it's not like it's outdoors. So you couldn't actually ride the ride. Yeah, actually, this is a really good representation of showing all the rides that were closed. So for Christmas, this is closed, this is closed, this is closed, these are closed, that's closed, 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 closed. Yeah, kind of sad. I mean, what rides were open? The factory tour ride, was that the only one I did? Yeah, basically, because I'm too big for the driving school one. So yeah, most of the rides were closed, half the stores were closed, but you know what? They did have a big Christmas tree to make up for it. Very odd, though, that they, like, shut everything down for the winter, but still had it open. So, weird. One thing I found was very odd was that Legoland Korea opened in like 2018, but they had so many of these. Like in the store, as you saw in the video, they had like a stupidly high amount of just random Nexo Knights stuff. Like this book, specifically copies of this book. I probably have this in English, but I was like, you know what, why not? I mean, I'll open it right now. I just thought it was interesting how they had so many. Like, I guess that would make sense if the park opened in like 2016 when this was being sold and nobody wanted it, so like nobody bought it and then they just had extras. but the park opened pretty recently, like past Nexo Night's discontinuation. So I guess they just found a lot of these in a warehouse somewhere. Yeah, why not build a little minifigure, get a little callback back to the good old days in 2016, so we can put this one together. So it just includes a little like miniature droid model, which was one of the droids that they used for the Nexo Knights theme. The green one was actually pretty rare. I remember that this only appeared in a few sets, so nice to see that appear in a book as well, and it's cool to get the Wolfpack emblem on a printed tile there. But yeah, this is just a really simple, basic little thing. I just kind of wanted to expand my LEGO literature collection and get stuff that have appeared in other languages, like books like these, so again, probably already own this, but I figured, you know what, why not? It is LEGO, it is in a different language, and it's always cool to get a new little figure. So there's our little guy right there. You can see the little Aaron bot, which was from Nexo Knights. Thought the mold they used for these little robots was cool. And then after I toss that, we can just quickly thumb through this. Yeah, it's mostly just like a kid's activity book. I'm definitely not the target age demographic for this, but you know what, it is nice for what it is. Can't read any of that, but yeah, it's good. It's good to see. Kind of a callback to old stuff that we were getting back in the day. So these were, wow, yeah, Nexo Knights. I can't believe I'm getting nostalgic for Nexo Knights. I feel like it came out just yesterday, but it is what it is. Now, before we get to the minifigures, the most interesting thing that I got in terms of a free gift, in my opinion, was this. So, as a free gift, they were giving out a 2023 wall calendar and organizer. The crazy thing, though, is that they were only giving it away with purchases of LEGO sets. And thing is, I own almost every LEGO set. The reason why I didn't buy that much on this trip was because I already owned everything. And they didn't have... I was so sad they did not have the new sets out early. Every previous year that I had gone, they had all those new sets out early, at least a few days before January 1st. They didn't have it this time, so I just couldn't get this. However, I got very lucky when I found it for sale at that one random store in the toy market. Like the random toy market that I came across where I pretty much owned everything else. Like I didn't need to buy anything else, but I found it. I was so happy because I was trying to like bargain with the employees. However, I don't speak Korean or Japanese, so I don't think I was able to bargain very well. I don't know if they knew what I was talking about. I was saying, hey, if I buy a ton of like merch, because I bought a lot of merch other than this. I bought gifts from my friends that were like special bags in Korean. I bought like shirts and I bought hats, which I didn't showcase here because they're just kind of like clothing that I have already in my dresser, but yeah. I bought a lot of clothing, like, well over the purchase limit, and they just wouldn't give it to me because they're like, no, you need to buy sets. And I was like, well, I own every set you're selling. Give me something new, and then I'll buy it. But, yeah, you've got, like, for the collectible minifigures, you have each of these different representations for the calendar here. I find that pretty nice. So you've got, like, January, February, March, April, May, June, etc. So you've got all the different months here. I kind of like how they were using the slightly more recent collectible minifigures series for this. It's just a little nice, charming, like, cardstock thing. I don't really know if we have this in the US. At least I haven't seen it, especially not as a gift with purchase. So I do like that. And then this is, I guess, a place to hold them. Yeah, I guess this is like a little container to hold all of them. Oh, what's this? Oh, cool. It's like a stand. Okay, so you fold this out like that. Okay, nice. Let me just get this folded up here. Yeah, okay, there you go. So you have a stand for them. Put them up. I'll put this by my desk. That's pretty cool, actually. Okay, I like this. The other thing that also came with it was a 2023 planner, and it does say 2023 in the corner, which is very cool. Also have not seen this in the US. I mean, it might exist. I don't pay a ton of attention to all the stationery products they do have. So this very well might exist, and I just don't know about it, but I haven't seen it before, certainly not as a gift with purchase. We never get gift with purchases like these in the US, really, so it's cool to get this. I mean, as it was supposed to be a gift with purchase, but I had to buy it separately at a random, like, used or, like, strange off-brand, like, LEGO store. That was just, like, a special one in the market, but it was interesting. Yeah, so this is planner right here. And I don't think this has anything like on the inside. Yeah, it's just like blank pages. Okay. Yeah, nice little notebook. I like it. It says 2023, which is cool, and it's pretty high quality as well. Alright, and with that, we have summed up our look at my LEGO shopping experience in Seoul, Korea. Do let me know down in the comments below if you're in the area. Have you ever experienced or been to any of these places? And if so, do you have any recommendations for me in the future? Is there anything that I missed? Any special LEGO things? I know there was one really special LEGO shop or experience in Korea that unfortunately I did not get to go to. It seemed like a standard toy store. Like, it looked like basically just the stuff they were selling were fairly standard, but I know that a LEGO users group in Korea does massive displays there. It was a little bit of a ways out from my hotel. I think it was going to be like an hour-and-a-half trip, so I wasn't able to make it this time, but that is on my list. But of course, if you have recommendations, do let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you all so much for tuning into Duckbricks. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks, and bye for now.